All right, everybody, what's up, YouTube? I am here to help you with finding simple things to use to help you in your relationships, with how you think, with how you regulate your emotions so that you have better outcomes. All right, so I'm still talking about thought processes today, and today I'm really going to focus more on 7 different thinking errors that we all typically have. And so it's something to be more mindful of so that it can help you and grow your relationships, and that you can also be a better person as well, right? So it's all about growth and development continuously. So here's all of them. So we have magnifying, minimizing, we have generalizing, blaming, dichotomous thinking, assumptions, and false reality. And I'm going to go into each of these and kind of show you how they can get defensive and cause defensiveness from somebody else, so that it can better help you. All right, so let's start with magnifying. So magnifying, aka, is another word for saying blowing out of proportion, right? So it's taking something small and it's making it super big, right? So let's say I get home from work, and let's say part of me and my wife still, she helps. Let's say she's staying at the house, she's taking care of her kids, and the toy wasn't picked up. I walk in, I step on it, I'm like, oh shoot, man, I cannot believe, like, what is going on here? Why do you not have all the toys picked up? It's like 7 o'clock. What have you been doing all day? Do you do anything all day? So you see what I'm saying? So what's happening is I'm taking this one little item and I'm blowing it out of proportion. And so if you didn't notice, what started happening even with me physiologically is what I started moving my hands more, my voice got louder, and what does that do? It increases defensiveness. So this goes back to that video that I mentioned that I had on mindfulness with the emotional and the rational and the wise mind. And so when we're in our emotional mind, we tend to have more hot thoughts, and we tend to just kind of speak or say whatever comes to our mind a little bit faster, right? Without even necessarily thinking. And again, there's a reason behind that, because I'm going into fight or flight mode. So that'd be an example of blowing things out of proportion. This could also be done with money. This could be done with other behaviors, sex, how you treat your in-laws, how you treat your friends, things like that. It could go any number of ways. All right, minimizing. So minimizing, on the other hand, is very opposite of that, right? So it's taking something big that I've done and I try to make it look really small because it's not really that important. So, for example, let's say that I yell at my wife, or something, or I yell at my significant other, or I get a tone with them or something. So what I may do to minimize that and justify that is saying, hey, you know what, it's really not all that bad, because there's people that do worse, or you know what, that's not really yelling. I just raised my voice a little. I can't help it that you took it as yelling. See, the thing is, we all have to take responsibility for our actions, right? So when I minimize, I don't do that. I'm not taking responsibility for my actions. Again, whether it's big or whether it's small, and it really doesn't matter. The idea here is when you are in a relationship, or in relationships, this be your friends, your family members, your kids, your loved one, is when you take responsibility for the small things and the big things, you're showing accountability. And here's the thing, even if the other person's not doing it, if you do it, they will mirror you back. It may take time, but they'll mirror you back. But again, that's minimizing. And you're going to see these kind of exude into each other, so you'll see how this works here in a minute. So the third one here is generalizing. And generalizing is basically saying that, well, most people do it. And you kind of saw that earlier when I mentioned this, is, well, everybody raises their voice. Well, not everybody yells, not everybody raises, not everybody punches a hole in the wall. Now, may a lot of people do that? Sure, but here's the thing. What we're working on here is we are not blaming, we are not taking away the responsibility of what I've done or what my actions are. What we're doing instead is we have to be accountable and take responsibility for what we've done. Again, whether that's 10% or 90%. So a big thing here is accountability and taking responsibility. You have to be willing to do that in a relationship, because if you don't, eventually you are going to be in gridlock, and guess what? It's not going to go anywhere, because guess what's going to happen? Resentments are going to build up. Bitterness is going to build up. We're going to be scanning the environment for negativity, and that's what we're going to get. And our emotional and our relational bank accounts are going to suffer and decrease, right? So blaming. Blaming is another one. So again, blaming, obviously, I think it kind of says it is what it is. It kind of says what it says without saying it. And blaming is just me simply saying, hey, you know what? You're the reason why I did this. Hey, if you would have picked up the toys, then guess what? I wouldn't have yelled at you. I wouldn't have got a tone of voice with you. You know what? If you weren't spending all of our money, then maybe we'd have money to go on trips. You want to go on trips all the time, but guess what? But you keep spending all the money. So again, blaming, the reason why we're not doing something, or the reason why I'm doing something is because of A, B, and C. So and it's usually as a result of I'm putting the reason why I'm responding onto somebody else. Now I get it, do people influence, does our significant other influence us as far as how we respond? Sure, of course. At the same time, it's very important for you and me as well. I'm guilty of this stuff as well, guys. There's something I learned from my marriage that's a big thing that I learned, is taking responsibility and accountability for my actions. It doesn't matter if she had an attitude. It doesn't matter if she had an RBF face. And if you don't know what that is, go look it up. It doesn't matter if my reaction is my reaction. And I have to be responsible for that. But I also can think it through. If I learn to think it through all the way and not let my emotions react, then I'm going to have a better chance of acting in a way that's going to be productive versus non-productive. And instead of damaging the relationship, I help it be more successful and better, right? And there's a whole thing on repair that I might get to another day, another time. Next one is dichotomous thinking, and dichotomous thinking really is your always and nevers, is your black and whites, right? So with this one, really what I really like to focus on with this one is more of the always and nevers. You never do this. You never take out the trash. You never let me go off with my friends. You always seem to, you always point the finger at me and say it's my fault. You always say it's because I raised my voice. You never and always. And let me ask you a question. What happens? So there's two things happening right there. One, when I say always and never, I'm already getting amped up in charge. I'm back in my emotional mind. I'm not in my wise mind anymore. And so I'm not being objective. I'm not pointing out the facts, right? And the thing is with always and never, I'm gonna make a quick, probably just a little snapshot video of this. But when I say always and never, what you will always get back is the one time that they never did that thing, or they always did that thing, or they didn't always do that thing, or they didn't always do the never thing, right? So again, what is that doing? Is creating, for the second thing, not only am I increasing my frustration, anger, and anxiety, but I'm also increasing defensiveness from the other person, because they are feeling like they have to defend themselves. Okay, so again, always and never, try to erase those from your vocabulary. Guys, again, I'm not exempt from this. I've done this before. So again, it's something that you are going to need to be more cognizant about. Assumptions. So assumptions, this could go in a lot of different directions, but so it makes an ass out of you and me. I don't really agree with that. So I'm gonna say it makes an ass out of you. Okay, it makes an ass out of me, because what starts happening if I start making up, and we call this magical thinking in counseling. So when I make assumptions, when I start creating a picture in my mind of what the other person is doing and what their intentions are, I'm making an assumption. And when I do that, depending on my assumptions, what I'm doing is I'm creating expectations. And when those expectations aren't met, what happens is defensiveness, frustration, aggression, all that stuff comes out. So my encouragement to you, instead of leading with an assumption, or when you start making assumptions, is to simply ask a question and see if you're right or you're wrong. And trust that the other person is going to tell you the truth. Again, that's a whole nother topic for another day, but you have to trust that person is going to give you the right, or the real answer. I know there's a whole bunch of stuff behind that, depending on what you've been through with you and your relationship, because that can take time, especially if trust is broken. All right, false reality, my last one here. This kind of goes back to the mindfulness stuff with observe, describe, and participate. Remember, in participate, I had mentioned that we participate in what is, not what we wish was going on. So the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, if, ands, and buts, which fall all back into these guys that we just mentioned. So when I am, excuse me. So when I'm in false reality, what's happening is I'm creating a whole separate vision of what I think should be going on. And when I do that, again, it's kind of like an assumption. I'm creating this masterpiece of how things should be, how they could be, how they would be. And the thing is, that's not what's actually happening right now in this situation. And so when I'm not dealing with this situation, I'm dealing with a whole nother situation, and it doesn't help the relationship at all, because all we're doing is this, because I'm actually on a whole nother planet. Does that make sense? I mean, me and her are in two separate realities, right? So we're fighting against two separate things. So we need to make sure that when we are having a discussion or a disagreement, we are both talking about the actual situation or thing that we need to actually be talking about, not what I wish would have happened or should have happened or could have happened. Again, now later, what can I do? I can always formulate that into a wish. I can formulate that into a question, and those kind of things. I can describe the facts, right? Express my emotions towards those in a calm, cool, collected manner, and that's going to get you more of what you want, more of what you don't want. So again, try to be a little bit more aware of what's going on in your mind, how being thoughtful or being observant of your thought processes, because your thought processes precede and dictate where everything else is going. So I hope this video is helpful. Again, these are 7 thinking errors that you can start being a little bit more cognizant of today. That's going to help you both internally, and it's going to help you with your relationships. All right, practical advice with your boy Kevin. I look forward to helping you in the next video, providing you some more information. All right, take care. Bye.